So apparently my intro isn't working right now. Anyways, welcome to the Carolina Nexus. I'm your host, Alex Cloninger. A couple of small announcements. I promised you guys I'd be in a different studio. Told you guys I'd be in a different studio this week. Some things happened. It didn't work out. Announcements. If you haven't already checked it out, I was a guest host on hashtag Truth Tonight. It went over a little bit. That's why I'm so late starting the show. Go check out hashtag Truth over on Scott Larson's Facebook page. We had a sit down interview with Jackson Insane, and let me tell you, it was exhilarating. Jax, you got a new fan. I'm number 118 on YouTube. I'm gonna go watch all those videos as soon as I get a chance. Tonight, Carolina Nexus, we're gonna read chapters 9 and 10 of the Tagapagon Enter the Tiger. We're gonna discuss those chapters, and we're gonna have fun doing it in preparation for tomorrow night's episode, where we do something a little bit different. Tomorrow night, usually on Tuesdays, we do character discussions from the other books in my series, but tomorrow night, Carolina Nexus is going to do something totally serious. It's a issue in the community. Now, as you all know, I'm from Shelby, North Carolina. Pokeville is my hometown. Shelby is just literally a rock's throw away from Pokeville, and there's been some drama occurring in Shelby, and the community is in an uproar about it, and I'm going to shed some light on this situation and get you guys, the fans, opinion on it. And yes, it will be controversial. Yes, it will be breaking 3 of my rules for Carolina Nexus, but I don't care. It has to be brought to the attention to the public's eye so the public knows what's going on. The public has a right to know. The Carolina Nexus is going to do everything they can to make sure the public has the information they need. Now, without further ado, I'm going to dive in to Tagapagon, Chapter 9. Wait. I forgot something very, very, very important. I got to do this. Got to do this. Got to do it right. Watching at home right now, my wife, Amber Cloninger, and my little boy Tyson, my son Riley, and my daughter Paisley. Thank you guys for tuning in. Scott Larson, fresh off of the hashtag Truth Show. He's here live. Scott, we're getting ready to dive into chapter 9 right now. The pre-dawn air was crisp with early autumn chill as Alex moved through his morning chores, his weighted gi hitting beneath his work clothes. What had once been a grudging hour-long routine now felt like a warm-up for his real training. Steam rose from the horses' backs as Alex distributed their morning feed, his movements fluid and efficient. The animals seemed to sense the change in him, no longer shying away when he moved too suddenly. Instead, they pressed their velvet noses against his shoulders, accepting his gentle pats as he worked. "There you go, girl," he murmured to Silver, their oldest mare. His hands moved with a new confidence as he checked her hooves, a task that used to take 10 minutes of coaxing, now completed in seconds. The chicken coop was next. He moved through among the hens with the same silent grace he learned in sparring matches, collecting eggs without disturbing a single bird. His basket filled twice as fast as it used to. Not a single egg cracked. From the kitchen window, Eunice watched her son work, coffee cup warming her hands. There was something different about him these days, not just the physical changes, though those were evident in the way his clothes fit differently, but how he carried himself. No, it was something deeper. Alex approached the barn doors, lifting the heavy wooden beam that had always required his full strength. Now he moved it with ease, barely registering the weight. The cows filed out in an orderly line, responding to his quiet commands as he guided them toward the pasture. "I don't believe it," Eunice whispered to herself, checking the kitchen clock. Alex had completed his morning chores in record time, tasks that usually took him until breakfast were done before the sun had fully risen. The back door opened and Alex entered carrying a basket of fresh eggs, his face glowing with healthy exertion rather than his old morning grumpiness. "Morning, Mom," he smiled carefully, setting the eggs down. "Made sure to get the brown ones Amy likes for her breakfast." Eunice studied her son as he moved around the kitchen with a newfound grace. Even the weighted clothes couldn't mask the lightness in his step. A month ago, he would have been dragging himself through the door, complaining about early mornings and endless chores. The horses are fed, coops clean, cows are out, and I fixed that loose board on the fence, Alex reported, grabbing an apple from the fruit bowl. Need anything else before I head to training? No, sweetheart, Eunice smiled softly. You've done more than enough. She paused, then added, You seem happy. Alex considered this as he polished the apple on his shirt. I am, he said simply. Everything just feels right, you know? Eunice nodded, thinking of the troubled boy who'd come home covered in bruises just a month ago. That boy was still there, but he'd found something he'd been missing: confidence, purpose, peace. Have a good day at training, sweetheart, she called as he headed for the door. Don't be late for dinner tonight. I'm making pot roast. Mom's famous pot roast? Wouldn't miss it. Alex was already out the door, moving with that new fluid grace that still surprised her. Eunice turned back to the window, watching her son jog down the driveway. The morning sun caught his profile, and for a moment she saw the man he was becoming rather than the boy he'd been. Whatever they were teaching him at that dojo, it was about more than defending himself. Her son was growing into someone who could help others stand tall too. She smiled, mentally adjusting her dinner preparations. Alhan had called earlier about setting an extra plate at the table, someone who could use a good meal and some quiet. Her husband hadn't mentioned who, but that was typical. Alhan always looking out for those who needed it. She'd make extra potatoes just in case. The hallway before third period was usually quiet. Most students already settled into their classrooms. Alex was returning from the water fountain, his weighted gi hidden beneath his school clothes, when he heard the sound of books scattering across the floor. Watch where you're going, Bagwell, Eric Wilson's voice carried around the corner. These uniforms aren't cheap to clean. Alex quickened his pace, turning the corner to find Marcus Bagwell on his knees, gathering scattered papers, while Eric Wilson and Daniel Beaker stood over him in their pristine white boa fang gis. They must have just come from morning practice. Sorry, Marcus grumbled. Reaching for his math textbook, Daniel's foot came down on it before he could grab it. Sorry isn't good enough, Daniel sneered. Maybe you should leave him alone? Alex interrupted, surprising himself with how steady his voice sounded. Eric and Daniel exchanged glances, then broke into matching grins. Well, look who decided to show his face, Eric smirked. Haven't seen you around much lately, Ruler. Been hiding from Douglas? Alex didn't respond. Instead, he simply moved forward and began helping Marcus gather his books. The weighted clothing made each movement deliberate and controlled. What's wrong, Ruler? No smart comments today? Daniel took a step forward. Usually, you'd be running by now. Just helping someone pick up their books, Alex said quietly, helping Marcus to his feet. That's all. Eric's eyes narrowed at Alex's calm demeanor. You've gotten weird, Ruler. Disappearing after school, avoiding everyone. Douglas thinks you're up to something. Douglas thinks a lot of things, Alex handed Marcus the last of his papers. You're going to regret this, Daniel warned. Douglas has been looking for an excuse. Alex felt a flutter of nervousness in his stomach but kept his expression neutral. Come on, Marcus. We'll be late for class. As they walked away, Alex could hear Eric calling after them. You can't hide forever, Ruler. Douglas is going to find you eventually. Once they were around the corner, Marcus let out a shaky breath. Thanks. You didn't have to do that. Yes, I did, Alex said simply. But they'll tell Douglas, Marcus glanced back nervously. And everyone knows you've been avoiding him since the farm incident, Alex managed a small smile. Maybe I'm just tired of people being bullied. Marcus studied him curiously. You're different lately. Everyone's noticed. You disappear right after school. No one knows where you go. Just been busy helping Dad at the farm, Alex lied smoothly, adjusting his backpack to better distribute the weight of his hidden gi. Nothing mysterious about it. As they headed to their next classes, Alex could feel Eric and Daniel watching from down the hall. Let them think he was hiding. Let them think he was afraid. Sometimes he was learning the best defense was letting others underestimate you. What none of them had noticed was Allison Jurgen standing in the doorway of the art room, her hands covered in clay from her sculpture project. She stepped out to wash her hands when she heard the commotion and found herself frozen in place watching the scene unfold. Her heart skipped a beat as Alex stepped forward to help Marcus, not with the brash heroics of someone trying to prove something, but with a quiet strength that made her breath catch in her throat. This wasn't the first time she'd seen Alex recently step in when others wouldn't, always quietly, always without drawing attention to himself, but there was something different about him now, something in the way he carried himself that made her stomach flutter. The nervousness was still there. She could see it in the way his hands tightened on his backpack straps, but it didn't let him stop it anymore. I'm sorry, let me rephrase that. He didn't let it stop him anymore. Watching him walk away with Marcus, Allison leaned against the doorframe, trying to steady her pacing. Suddenly, racing pulse. When had this happened? When her childhood friend, the boy who used to show her his Dragon Buster X cards and stammer through conversations, become someone who made her feel this way? It wasn't just his newfound confidence, though that certainly didn't hurt. It was the way he remained himself through it all. Still a bit awkward, still kind, still collecting those silly cards, but now there was something more, something that made her notice things she never paid attention to before. The way his eyes crinkled slightly when he smiled, how his hair fell across his forehead when he was concentrating, the gentle strength in his hands when he'd help Marcus with his books. Get it together, Allison, she whispered to herself, realizing she'd been standing there long after everyone had gone. Her clay project was probably drying out, but somehow that didn't seem important anymore. She'd been planning to stop by the farm anyway. Tiffany had borrowed one of Mr. Ruler's saddles for riding practice. Now she had another reason to visit, even if the thought of seeing Alex made her heart do strange somersaults in her chest. Mrs. Ruler needed to know that while everyone else thought Alex was hiding from his problems, he was actually facing them head on. And Mr. Ruler, he should know that his son was becoming exactly the kind of person he'd raised him to be. The kind of person that made a girl's heart race just by standing up for what was right. Glancing at the clock, Allison hurried to wash her hands, trying to ignore how warm her face felt. If she timed it right, she could catch Mrs. Ruler before she started dinner preparations. Something told her this evening's dinner conversation might be particularly interesting. As she returned to her sculpture, Allison found herself shaping the clay into something new. Not the vase she'd planned, but a figure that somehow captured the quiet strength she'd just witnessed. Tiffany would tease her mercilessly if she knew, but Allison couldn't help herself. Sometimes the heart spoke through art before it found the right words. You got it bad, she murmured to herself, but for once she didn't mind admitting it. Alex Ruler had always been special to her, but now he was becoming someone extraordinary. And maybe, just maybe, it was time to let him know she felt the same way he did. The afternoon sun cast harsh shadows through the windows of the Boafang dojo, the fluorescent lights giving the training area an artificial gleam. Douglas Kennedy stood in front of a punching bag, his strikes echoing through the empty space. Each hit carried more force than necessary, the chain rattling ominously with every impact. The door creaked open as Eric Wilson and Daniel Beaker entered, still in their school clothes. They hesitated at the threshold, exchanging nervous glances before approaching. Well, Douglas didn't turn around, landing another brutal strike on the bag. We saw Ruler today, Eric reported, trying to keep his voice steady. He's different. That made Douglas pause, his fist frozen mid-strike. Different how? He stood up to us, Daniel added quickly, when we were dealing with that Bagwell kid. But it wasn't like before. He was calm, Eric finished, like he wasn't afraid anymore. Douglas finally turned to face them, sweat glistening on his forehead, his eyes dark with barely contained anger. Calm? The same Alex Ruler who used to stammer and run, who disappeared after school every day since the farm incident? Maybe he's been working out or something, Daniel suggested. He moved differently. No, Douglas unwrapped the tape from his hands with sharp, aggressive movements. There's more to it. Nobody changes that much without help. He crossed to the window, looking out the street where where Alex used to pass by every day after school. Where does he go every afternoon? Nobody knows, Eric shrugged. Some say he's hiding at the farm. Others think he's just avoiding. He's not hiding, Douglas cut him off. He's preparing. Training somewhere. His fingers traced the Boafang emblem on the window. First he embarrasses us at the farm. Now he's protecting Bagwell. He's challenging us. Want us to follow him, Daniel offered? Find out where he goes? No. Douglas turned back to them, a cold smile forming. I have a better idea. Tell everyone Alex Ruler is scared. Running away, hiding from his problems. Let him think we believe it. He cracks his knuckles slowly. Meanwhile, keep watching. He'll slip up eventually. Show his hand. And then, Eric asked? Douglas' smile widened. And then we remind him why Boafang is the most dominant force in the entirety of the Carolinas. He returned to the punching bag, his strikes more controlled now, but somehow more menacing. Nobody challenges us. Nobody. As Eric and Daniel left, Douglas continued his training, each strike accompanied by a visualization of Alex Ruler. Something had changed to his former victim, and Douglas intended to find out what or who was responsible. The sun sank lower, casting Douglas's shadow large against the dojo wall. his rhythmic strikes echoing like a promise of things to come. Usanagi entered the main dojo from the office, leaning against the doorframe. Mr. Kennedy, he growls. This ruler kid. Is he the same kid who tried to join our ranks months ago? Yes, Sensei, Douglas says, immediately bowing to his master. Interesting. Usanagi moved into the room with military precision, each step measured and purposeful. His black gi was pressed to razor-sharp creases, the Boa Fang emblem blood-red against the darkness. Despite his age, he maintained the high and tight haircut from his Marine Corps days, though he styled the top into a sleek pompadour that spoke of his rebellious youth. The dog tags around his neck clinked softly against his black belt as he moved. At ease, Kennedy, he said, noting Douglas's rigid posture. A half smile played at the corner of his mouth, partially hidden by his meticulously maintained handlebar mustache. You're my best student, not a boot camp recruit. Yes, Sensei. Douglas relaxed slightly, but maintained his respectful stance. The entire dojo knew that Usanagi's casual moments were often when he was most dangerous. Now tell me about Ruler. Usanagi pulled a silver comb from his gi pocket, running it through his pompadour with practiced ease. And don't spare the details. In 5 years of training champions, you're the only student who's never failed to notice important intel. Douglas straightened at the praise. He's changed, Sensei. The way he moves, the way he carries himself, the way he defies us. Usanagi's voice carried the sharp edge of a drill instructor dressing down a recruit. He circled the punching bag slowly, his movements reminiscent of a predator despite his rockabilly style. First, he dares enter our dojo unprepared. Then his father arrests one of our students, and now he interferes with dojo business. Usanagi stopped at the trophy wall, adjusting his reflection in one of the gleaming cups. You know, Kennedy, when I left the Corps, I had one goal: to build warriors who wouldn't go soft like this new generation. In 5 years, you're the only one who's truly understood that vision. Thank you, Sensei. Don't thank me yet, Usanagi. Turned sharply, his dog tags jingling. Someone in this town is training Ruler. Someone is trying to undermine everything we've built, everything I've taught you. He moved closer to Douglas, his cologne a mix of leather and motor oil. I won't have some peace-preaching martial arts wannabe ruining my best student's senior year. You understand me, son? Crystal clear, Sensei. Good. Usanagi's smile widened beneath his mustache. Now here's what we're going to do. You're going to maintain discipline. Keep your distance. Watch, but don't engage. Like a recon mission. He straightened Douglas's gi collar with the almost fatherly precision. Meanwhile, I'll make some calls to my old Corps buddies in the area. Somebody, someone, somewhere must know who's got the nerve to train students in our territory. And when we find out, Usanagi's eyes hardened. Then we remind them why I earned this in 87. He tapped the purple heart pin on his gi. Combat isn't about honor, son. It's about victory at any cost. He stepped back, surveying his prized student. You've got the makings of a true warrior, Kennedy. Don't let some sheriff's kid and his mysterious sensei ruin that. Never, Sensei. That's my boy. Usanagi turned toward his office, his steps precise and measured. Oh, and Kennedy, nice form on that bag work earlier. But next time, he flashed a dangerous smile. Hit it like you mean it. As his mentor's door closed, Douglas returned to the bag with renewed intensity. Every strike echoed with the weight of Usanagi's expectations. Every impact a promise to prove himself worthy of being the champion his sensei had molded him to be. The aroma of pot roast filled the Ruler family kitchen as Alex helped set the table, still energized from his afternoon training despite the weighted clothing beneath his regular clothes. Amy bounced around him, arranging and rearranging the silverware he'd already placed. You're doing it wrong, she insists, swapping 2 forks for the third time. The big ones go on the outside. Since when are you an expert on fork placement? Alex teased, ruffling her hair. Since forever, Amy declared with 5-year-old authority. The sound of tires on gravel drew their attention. Through the window, Alex saw his father's cruiser pulling up, but he wasn't alone. A thin figure sat in the passenger seat, shoulders hunched nervously. Mom? Alex called. Did Dad say we were having company? Eunice emerged from the kitchen, wiping her hands on her apron. He mentioned setting an extra plate, she smiled knowingly. Good thing I made plenty. The front door opened and Sheriff Ruler's voice carried through the house. Eunice, kids, we've got a guest for dinner. One moment. Marcus Bagwell followed Alhan into the dining room. He looked like he wanted to disappear into his oversized flannel shirt. Alex blinked in surprise, remembering their encounter at school earlier. Marcus, Eunice stepped forward warmly. Welcome to our home. You're just in time. The pot roast is perfect. Thank thank you, Mrs. Ruler, Marcus managed, his eyes darting around the room. You can sit next to me, Amy announced, pulling out a chair. I arranged the forks special. A ghost of a smile crossed Marcus's face as he sat down. Alex took the seat across from him, trying not to show his own surprise at the situation. They just started passing dishes around when another knock came at the door. This time it was Allison, her cheeks flushed from the evening air. I hope I'm not interrupting, she said, though her quick glance at Alex suggested she'd timed her arrival deliberately. I just wanted to return the saddle Dad borrowed, and Mom sent over an apple pie for dessert. You're never interrupting, sweetheart, Eunice said. Grab a plate and join us. We got plenty. As Allison settled into the seat beside Alex, he became very acutely aware of every movement in his weighted clothing. The simple act of passing the mashed potatoes felt like an exercise in control. So, Marcus, Alex began, his tone casual. I'm sorry, I messed that completely up. I'm going to rewind. So, Marcus, Alhan began, his tone casual but his eyes watchful. Alex tells me you two had an interesting day at school. Marcus nearly choked on his pot roast. Alex shot his father a look before either boy could respond. Allison spoke up. Actually, Mr. Ruler, I saw what happened, she said, her voice steady. Alex stood up for Marcus when some boys were giving him trouble. He was really brave about it. The tips of Alex's ears burned red. Under the table, he felt Allison's hand give his knee a quick squeeze. Is that right? Eunice looked between the three teenagers, her expression soft. Well, we always have room at our table for friends who look out for each other. Speaking of looking out for each other, Alhan added, Marcus, you know you're welcome here any time, especially on nights when home is quiet. The meaning wasn't lost on anyone at the table. Marcus stared at his plate, but his shoulders relaxed slightly. Thank you, sir, he whispered. Can Marcus come over every night? Amy asked, oblivious to the underlying currents. He uses his forks right. The tension broke as everyone laughed. As the conversation flowed more naturally, Alex watched Marcus gradually open up, sharing a shy smile with Amy, answering Eunice's gentle questions about school, even managing a joke that made Alhan chuckle. Throughout dinner, Alex caught Allison watching him with an expression he couldn't quite read. Every time her eyes meet, Every time their eyes met, she'd smile in a way that made his weighted clothing feel twice as heavy. By the time Eunice served Allison's mother's apple pie, the dining room had transformed. It wasn't just the Ruler family having dinner anymore, it was something bigger, something that felt like the beginning of change and hopeful. And somehow Alex thought as he passed Marcus a second helping of pie, that felt exactly right. As the evening wound down, Allison helped Eunice clear the last of the plates, insisting it was the least she could do for joining them unexpectedly. When she finally gathered her things to leave, Alex jumped up from his chair a little too quickly. I can walk you home, he offered, trying to sound casual despite the weight of his hidden gi making his movements deliberately slow. That's sweet, Allison smiled, but you shouldn't leave your guest waiting. Besides, it's still light out, she turned to Marcus. It was really nice having dinner with you. Marcus nodded shyly. Thanks for, everything. Before anyone could react, Allison stepped forward and gave Alex a quick but firm hug. The scent of her strawberry shampoo made his head spin, and he was pretty sure his face was turning as red as Ty's training clothes. As Allison pulled away, her own cheeks slightly pink, Amy's voice rang out with sing-song delight. Alex and Allison, sitting in a tree. Kissin. Hey, Marcus, Alex practically shouted, his voice cracking. Want to head upstairs? I just got the new Mortal Kombat Armageddon for GameCube. Sure, Marcus replied, fighting back a grin at Alex's obvious embarrassment. No fair, Amy pouted. I didn't finish my song. I'm sure Alex and Marcus want to hear the rest later, sweetheart, Eunice said with barely concealed amusement. As the boys hurried upstairs, they could hear Amy singing her song again in the kitchen, with Alhan's deep chuckle providing accompaniment. Alex closed his bedroom door, flopping onto his beanbag chair with a groan that had nothing to do with his weighted clothing. Your sister's got quite the voice, Marcus said, sitting on the edge of Alex's bed. Don't you start to, Alex warned, but he was smiling as he reached for the controllers. Now you ready to see what Sub-Zero can do? You were so friggin' on. I'll kick your teeth in with Scorpion. Marcus smirked, grabbing the second controller. All right, guys. That was chapter 9, and I'm 26 minutes in. So, questions about chapter 9, guys. I know I fumbled it. My allergies are killing me. But any questions about chapter 9 before we go into chapter 10? Amber says mushy. Well, honey, I told you this was an experiment for me. I'm trying to broaden my horizons as an author, and I figured what better way to do that than start with a love story. It's not all blood and guts in the Carolina Nexus. Thank you, Scott, for liking the podcast. Thank you for tuning in. Really, really, really appreciate you guys tuning in and interacting with me. What can I say, Scott? I'm a nerd, and it fits the time frame. I did my research. Mortal Kombat Armageddon had just released on the GameCube the year this story takes place. I know, I know. You just don't like the mush. That's all it is. So you're really gonna hate Casey Elkins when I turn her into a full-fledged love story. Mush. That's all it is. Um, yeah. I played Mortal Kombat on the Sega, on the PlayStation, on the N64, on the GameCube, and any other like venue that it came out on. I believe I played a weird one where it was Scorpion and Sub Zero teaching me how to type. Yes, Scott, it's very confused. She's one of the only females that doesn't like reading love stories. I would do that in a heartbeat, Amber. But if I do that, then I really do have to turn Amber into a werefish. The same as the character in the book, Sub Zero. Absolutely, Scott. That's definitely going to be happening. Amber, do you have any actual questions pertaining to the book that I just read, the chapter I just read? Something tells me you forgot to sit down this past weekend and read ahead of everybody else and write out your questions. Because, yes, my wife does that, ladies and gentlemen. She gets on my computer, she reads ahead, and writes her questions out predetermined. 1,000 times, yes. She asked, did your real sister, whom Amy is based on, ever actually get on your nerves so badly growing up? Yes. 1,000 times, yes. My real sister got on my nerves that badly. And in book 3, you'll see one of my least favorite activities with my sister in on the page. Nah, man, it's just allergies. I'm out of my allergy medication and I'm out of cold water. I gotta get another bottle of water. So that's what's going on there. I just did. So if there's no more questions pertaining to chapter 9, Amber or Scott, since you're my only two watchers or viewers right now, I'm gonna go ahead and dive into chapter 10. It looks a little bit longer than chapter 9 was. Let me double check before I commit to that. All right, jumping into chapter 10. The morning sun had barely warmed the courtyard benches when Ken arrived at their usual meeting spot, shuffling through his latest Magic the Gathering deck. He looked up as Alex approached, but his typical greeting died on his lips when he saw Marcus trailing behind. Hey, Alex said casually, as bringing new people to their morning sanctuary was completely normal. You remember Marcus, right? Ken's eyes flickered between them. Yeah, from yesterday's incident. He carefully set his cards aside. You okay after that? Marcus shifted uncomfortably. Yeah, thanks to Alex. Speaking of interesting timing, a new voice cut in. Ty appeared seemingly from nowhere as he often did, his red tank top bright in the morning light. I heard about what happened with Eric and Daniel. Alex noticed Marcus stiffen at the mention of the Boafang students, but Ty's easy smile seemed to put him at ease. Marcus, this is Ty. Alex made the introduction. He's kind of an expert at dealing with bullies. More like an expert I'm gonna try this again. More like an expert at appearing out of thin air, Ken muttered, but he was smiling. Seriously, do you take ninja classes or something? Ty's eyes twinkled with amusement. Something like that. He settled onto the bench across from them. So, Marcus, Alex tells me you're pretty good at Mortal Kombat. Marcus perked up. You play? Nah, but I hear you gave Alex a run for his money last night with Scorpion. Almost had him a few times, Marcus said, then caught himself as if surprised by his own enthusiasm. Almost being the key word, Alex grinned. Then noticed Ken's raised eyebrow. What? Nothing, said Ken, innocently pulling out his deck box. Just nice to see our little group of social outcasts growing. Marcus, you know anything about magic? A little bit, Marcus admitted. My cousin showed me once, but say no more. Ken spread his cards out with flourish. Prepare for your education in the finest trading card game ever created. As Ken launched into his typical passionate explanation of mana and creature types, with Marcus listening intently, Ty gestured for Alex to step aside. What you did for Marcus was admirable, Ty said quietly, his voice carrying that same tone he used during training. But remember what grandfather taught us about restraint? Alex glanced down at his weighted clothing. I didn't fight anyone. No, but you stood like we taught you, moved like we taught you. Ty's expression was serious now. Eric and Daniel might not have noticed, but others might. The gift of knowledge comes with responsibility. I couldn't just watch them hurt him, Alex protested softly. I know, Ty's expression softened slightly, and that's why Grandfather chose to teach you. But next time, he glanced at Marcus, who was now completely absorbed in Ken's explanation of combat phases, try to help without showing our hand. Alex nodded, understanding a deeper meaning. It wasn't just about keeping his training secret, it was about learning when to reveal strength and when to hold it in reserve. Now, Ty's usual smile returned as he raised his voice. Does someone want to explain to me why this Blue Eyes White Dragon card Ken keeps talking about is so special? That is Yu-Gi-Oh! Ken called back in mock outrage. Completely different game. I would never, the bell rang, cutting off whatever promised to be a passionate defense of Magic's superiority. As they gathered their things, Alex caught Ty's subtle nod of approval. Message received. Help others, but keep the source of his strength hidden, at least for now. 100 push-ups, Sensei Kwando announced, his voice carrying across the silent dojo. He stood before Alex, who knelt in his weighted gi, head bowed. You revealed our teaching to outsiders. Hi, Sensei, Alex replied, moving into position. Tai-san informed me of your noble intentions, Sensei continued, pacing slowly. But nobility without wisdom is like sword without handle, dangerous to both enemy and wielder. Alex began his push-ups, the weight of his training clothing make each one a struggle. The other students watched from their kneeling positions around the edge of the training mat. 20 push-ups in, sweat already dripping from his forehead. Alex called out, Sensei! You wish to stop? Yoshimoto's voice carried a hint of disappointment. No, Sensei. Alex held his position, arms trembling. I wish to make it harder. Sensei Kwando's eyebrows raised slightly. Explain. Permission to ask my fellow students to add their weighted tunics to my back, Sensei. A murmur went through the watching students. Sensei's expression remained neutral, and there was a glimmer in his eyes. You wish to turn punishment into training? Hi, Sensei. If I'm to learn to control, let me first master the weight of my actions. Yoshimoto studied his student for a long moment, then a small smile crept across his face. Very well, students. One by one, they approached, laying their weighted clothing across Alex's back, each addition making his arms shake more violently, but he kept going. 30 push-ups, 40 push-ups. The weight became almost unbearable. Remember this feeling, Sensei spoke softly now. Each weight represents a life you might affect with your actions. Each push represents strength needed to bear that responsibility. At 50 push-ups, Alex's arms felt like they were on fire. At 60, his vision blurred with sweat and effort. At 70, the weight shifted precariously. Enough, Sensei called out, but Alex didn't stop. Please, Sensei, let me finish. Yoshimoto's eyes narrowed, but he nodded. The other students watched in silence as Alex continued, his entire body trembling with effort. 80, 90, each push-up was a battle now, but Alex remembered Marcus's face at school and remembered the fear in his eyes before he stepped in. 99, Alex gasped. And what have you learned? Sensei asked. That the weight of responsibility, Alex forced out the final push-up, is worth bearing if it means protecting others. Wrong, Sensei knelt beside him as the students began removing their weights. You have learned that strength without purpose is meaningless, but purpose without control is dangerous. He helped Alex to his feet. Now fall in line with the rest of your brethren. Alex bowed, his arm still shaking. Hi, Sensei. As he went to his designated spot in the circle around the mat, Alex caught Sensei's slight nod of approval. The punishment wasn't just about the push-ups or the cleaning. It was about understanding every action carried weight and learning to bear that weight with wisdom. The path of Jang Kwang Do, Sensei Kwando began, standing before his students who knelt in perfect rows, is not a single road, but 9 distinct trails, each following the wisdom of nature's greatest teachers. Alex's arm still trembled from his punishment push-ups, but his attention was fixed on his master. Sensei moved to the wall where 9 banners hung, each bearing a different animal. The falcon. Sensei touched the first banner. Strikes from above using speed and precision. The wolf. Fights with pack tactics and cunning. The frog, his eyes twinkled slightly, turns weaknesses into strength through extraordinary leaps. He continued down the line. The bear emphasizes power and endurance. The crane teaches balance and patience. The ape combines strength with intelligence and adaptability. The students watched in rapt attention as he approached the final three banners. The tiger, raw power tempered by discipline. The dragon, the harmony of all elements. And Spider, he paused, turning an opponent's strength against them through strategy and timing. Each of you, he turned to face the class, will find your path among these nine. Some will master multiple styles, others will excel in just one. Your spirit will guide. The dojo door creaked open, interrupting Sensei's lecture. Ken stood in the doorway, looking both nervous and determined. Ah! The sensei's expression was unreadable. The friend who plays with magical cards. Alex tensed, remembering his own first day, but Ken stepped forward with surprising confidence. Actually, I'd say I'm more of an ape style, adaptable. He gestured at the banner. Plus, I've already got the looks for it. A few students gasped at his casualness. Sensei's expression remained stern. You wish to join our dojo? He asked. Well, I was going to join Planet Fitness, but their animal style selection is really limited. Not even a smile from Sensei. Ken pressed on. Besides, I've heard you've got the best student rates in towns, though I should warn you. He struck an exaggerated martial arts pose. I've watched every Jackie Chan movie ever made. Twice. Sensei approached Ken slowly. You think humor will earn you a place here? No, Ken replied, dropping the axe slightly. I think it shows I can adapt, think on my feet, and face scary situations with creativity. He glanced at Alex. Plus, someone needs to keep this guy's ego in check. Sensei studied Ken for a long moment, then, so subtle, most might have missed it, the corner of his mouth twitched. Your test will be different, he announced. Make me laugh. Truly laugh. You have one attempt. Ken's eyes widened, but he nodded. He looked around the dojo, at the serious faces, the ancient scrolls, the dignified atmosphere. Then he turned back to Sensei with a completely straight face. What did the Kung Fu master say to the hot dog vendor? He paused. Make me one with everything. Silence. Then, to everyone's shock, Sensei threw his head back and let out a genuine laugh. Buddhist jokes in my dojo. He wiped his eyes, still chuckling. Very well, you begin tomorrow, 6 a.m. Actually, Ken raised a finger. I was thinking more like noon, when the sun's actually awake. 6 a.m., Sensei repeated, no longer laughing but still smiling. And bring a broom. In Jangquang Do, all students must first master the art of sweeping. Let me guess. Sweep the leg? Ken grinned. This time Sensei didn't laugh, but his eyes twinkled. No, sweep the floor. All of it. Every morning. Alexander-san, you are no longer new recruit. You move to advanced chores. As Ken moved to join the class, Sensei returned to his lesson. Now, as I was saying, sometimes the path chooses you in ways you least expect. Alex couldn't help but wonder what Sensei Kwando meant by advanced chores. The setting sun cast long shadows across Main Street as Alex, Ken, and Ty exited Kwando's School of Martial Arts. Ken's arms trembled slightly from his first experience with the weighted broom, but his grin hadn't diminished in the fading daylight. So, he said, stretching dramatically, when do I get my super fancy karate pajamas? Because I'm thinking rhinestones, maybe some flames along the side. It's called a gi, Ty corrected, but he was smiling, and you have to earn it. What? Sweeping isn't enough? Ken pretended to be offended. I'll have you know I discovered 3 new muscle groups just trying to lift that broom. Alex chuckled, adjusting his regular clothes over his weighted gi. Wait until Sensei adds the weights. The what now? Across the street at Watt's Diner, the neon open sign cast a red glow over Eric Wilson as he nearly choked on his chocolate milk. He elbowed Daniel Beaker, who was focused on his dinner plate. Look, Eric hissed, nodding toward the trio outside Kwando's. Daniel's fork stopped halfway to his mouth. Is that the sheriff's kid and his nerd friend? Eric's eyes narrowed as he watched them laugh. At the old man dojo. Douglas needs to know about this, Daniel muttered, pulling out his phone. Wait. Eric grabbed his wrist. Let's watch them a bit longer. Figure out their schedule. His lips curved into a mean smile. Douglas will want details. Outside, oblivious to their audience, Ken was still going on about gi designs. What about LED lights? You know, for night training? Just focus on mastering the broom first, Ty advised sagely. Fine, fine, but I'm telling you, this place is missing some serious market opportunities. Kwando School of Martial Arts and Advanced Janitorial Sciences. As their laughter faded into the dusk, Eric and Daniel exchanged looks at the diner. In the diner's fluorescent lighting, the mystery of Alex Roller's disappearance had just been solved, and Douglas Kennedy was about to have a very interesting evening. Eric and Daniel hurried through the empty halls of the Boafang dojo, their footsteps echoing against a polished floor. But as they rounded a corner to Douglas's private training room, they found David Brown blocking their path. And where do you two think you're going? David's voice carried the smooth confidence of someone who knew exactly how dangerous he was. We have news for Douglas, Eric said, trying to keep his voice steady, about Alex Ruler. David's eyes narrowed. Really? Then you can tell me and I'll make sure Douglas gets the message. But, Daniel stated, but what? David stepped closer. His Boafang uniform seemed to absorb the shadows. You think you deserve the credit for this intel? You think you've earned the right to speak to Douglas directly? We saw them ourselves, Eric protested, at Kwando's. The word had barely left his mouth when David's fist connected with Daniel's stomach. Daniel crumpled to the floor, gasping. Now, David turned to Eric, who had backed against the wall. Want to tell me everything you saw? I promise not to hurt you. Eric's eyes darted to Daniel's prone form, then back to David. They were leaving Kwando School of Martial Arts. Alex, his friend Kid, and some kid in a red tank top. They're training there. See, was that so hard? David smiled. Then his foot snapped up in a perfect roundhouse, catching Eric in the temple. As Eric slumped unconscious beside Daniel, David straightened his gi. Thanks for the info, boys, he said to their unconscious forms. Douglas will be very interested to hear what I discovered. The door chimed as Ken arrived for his morning training. Broom in hand, he paused at the sight of Alex and Ty covered in paint, their gi speckled white. So this is what advanced training looks like? Ken raised an eyebrow. I take back what I said about decorating my gi. If this is what happens to advanced students, I'm definitely sticking with basic sweeping. Ah, Ken-san, Sensei's eyes twinkled. Perfect timing. Advanced students need break. You can sweep up paint drips while they rest. Paint drips? Ken looked at the perfectly clean floor beneath the freshly painted walls. What paint drips? The ones that will happen, Sensei smiled, handing Alex and Ty Sanders. When we remove all this paint to start again. Ken's jaw dropped as he watched white dust begin to fall. You know, he said, gripping his broom, somehow I don't think Planet Fitness is looking so bad right now. And that's the end of Chapter 10. It's time for your questions for Chapter 10, guys. And my little boy said Dada for the first time while watching the show. That's awesome. Now, questions for Chapter 10. The floor is your guys. Yes, a Planet Fitness call out. I told you, I hid Easter eggs in my story, and that was one of them. It means it's the first step on his journey. he had to make Sensei Kwando laugh. He did with a Buddhist joke, and then he started sweeping. He appeared for his first official day of training at 6 a.m. to find Alex and Ty had already been there painting. So he's starting off behind them, and you'll understand more of why he started off behind them later. I did not come up with that on my own, actually. Um, Paisley had a joke book at one point or another, and I was flipping through it and found it. It was so lame and so not funny that it was funny, especially in the context of the story. That was actually never planned to be a scene, but it was done so the reader could learn just how far and dastardly and evil Boa Fang could be. They're willing to attack their own people to get ahead. And that's what David's doing here. He attacked Eric and Daniel Beaker, Eric Wilson and Beaker, with the intention of taking their information they learned that Douglas told them to look for in chapter 9 for himself to make himself look better in Douglas's eyes. That's exactly what happened there. Okay, guys, so if there's no more questions about the chapters we've read tonight, I'm going to talk a little bit about tomorrow night's episode. Normally, it's a character discussion. Normally, I pull up the wheel, we spin it, we find out who we're talking about. We're not doing that tomorrow night. The Carolina Nexus is going to dive into a local problem that's been going on for a little over a week now, and I'm going to hear the opinions, thoughts of everyone on that watches my show. I will warn you, my show tomorrow night at 7 p.m. will not be for the faint of heart. So if you don't want your kids exposed to violence, don't bring them to watch. Kick them out of the room. And we will discuss something that's happening in my community in the Carolinas. It's the Carolina Nexus after all. So we're going to discuss that as a community. I will give you my thoughts and opinions on it. I will be breaking my own rules and keeping all politics and race and religion and all that good stuff out of my show, but this has to be addressed. So if you want to be a part of that discussion, please come on, listen to what I've got to say. Get all the details from the internet that you need to get. Do your own research. Come in with an open mind. You'll get my opinion on it, how I feel about the situation, and we're going to go from there. You don't have to be PG at all on my show. We just have three rules we typically follow, which is no religion, no politics, sorry about that, and no sex. But tomorrow night, it's going to get a little bit blurred with those lines because I'm going to talk about something that's happening in Cleveland County, which, as you all know, is the forefront of the Carolina Nexus book universe, and it needs to be addressed. And I want to give my personal opinion on it because I feel like it needs to be heard. But I'm not going to be one of those podcasters that says the fans can't give their opinions. I'll bring their opinions on the screen. We'll discuss it like adults. So tomorrow night's episode may not be an hour-long episode. With that, ladies and gentlemen, this has been the Carolina Nexus live reading episode. Next week, we will be reading chapter 11 and 12. Without further ado, thank you all for tuning in. Scott Larson, thank you for having me as the host of co-host of Hashtag Truth Tonight. Anytime you need my help, buddy, I got you. This is your one and only warning. Carolina Nexus, we dive in.